Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Great Doctrinal Reset. Today, we will be discussing understanding truth through creation. We assert that truth has two primary sources, what God says and what God does. Among his actions, the creation of the universe stands out as the most revealing of his nature through the laws he has established. We have already discussed some of these laws in relation to chance and the law of large numbers. By studying probability, we gain insight into the character of God. To gain insight into God through our understanding of the universe, we need a new scientific theory on creation. First, we will discuss the roles of theories in science. Why do we use theories? We use theories because they answer questions. And as they continue to do so, they remain relevant. Crucially, theories foster revelation and innovation. Consider the different historical theories of our universe. First, the geocentric theory. The earliest model where all celestial bodies were believed to revolve around the Earth. This theory satisfied the queries of its time until observations of planetary movements proved it insufficient, leading to heliocentric theory. This was a paradigm shift suggesting that celestial bodies orbit the sun. This model answered more questions but still could not explain the fixed positions of the stars from the Earth's perspective. And now we come to our modern cosmological model. Our understanding has evolved to acknowledge that our sun is just one star among billions in a galaxy within a universe full of galaxies. The term theory implies there are still questions left unanswered. Otherwise, these models would be called facts. Albert Einstein's theory of relativity describes how the universe functions at the macro level, involving planets, stars, and black holes. It introduces concepts like space-time, the relativity of simultaneity, kinematics, and time dilation. This theory not only predicted phenomena like neutron stars and black holes, but also led to practical innovations like GPS satellites, television and radar, space travel, nuclear power, and atomic weapons. Despite its inability to fully explain what happens inside black holes, the theory of relativity has been instrumental in shaping our modern world. At the micro level, quantum mechanics deals with atoms and subatomic particles. It admits to not fully understanding why particles behave as they do, but provides rules by which they operate. From this theory, despite its mysteries, we have developed computers, fluorescent lights, MRI machines, semiconductors, and lasers. Both relativity and quantum mechanics are imperfect, but powerful enough to drive innovation and expand our comprehension of God's creation. And now we move on to the newest theory on the creation of our universe. Simulation theory, a new lens on reality. The latest theory concerning creation of our universe is known as simulation theory. Initially proposed by Nick Bostrom, it posits that our universe is a digital simulation akin to a video game within our computers. In this model, everything, including ourselves, is composed of numbers and the mathematics that govern them. The idea that we are living in a simulated reality can be unsettling. When I first became convinced of this theory, it took me 2 years to adjust. I found myself questioning reality, even to the point of touching walls to affirm their existence. While you might find this perspective hard to grasp initially, but by the end of the discussion, you might see reality in a new light. The conceptual proof of our dreams. Let us remove computers from the equation momentarily. Consider the act of dreaming. When you dream, say, of walking through a tall grass field under a sunny blue sky on a windy day, your brain constructs a three-dimensional space where you can move in all directions. Is this space real? Are you using your physical eyes to see? Or your physical ears to hear the grass crunching underfoot? Or your senses to feel the warmth of the sun? No. If you never awoke from that dream, you would have no reason to doubt its reality. This capability of our brains to generate convincing reality serves as proof of concept for simulations. If the human brain can create such vivid experiences as a side job, Imagine how sophisticated a dedicated universe simulation machine could be. Now let us return back to computers. With virtual reality headsets, we have already begun simulating environments where you can physically interact. Picture being in the video game Skyrim, in the city of Whiterun, where you hear the local chatter and see the bustle of daily life. As technology progresses, we can foresee virtual reality suits that will eventually provide all 5 senses within a simulated world. You could feel the horses back in Skyrim, smell the stables, taste the sweet roll in Ysolda's house, and even feel pain from a bandit's club. If you remove the simulation suit, what is changed? Nothing. This scenario parallels Christian belief where spirit inhabits a body. What changes when we shed our physical form? The scientific and religious implications. Initially, scientists view this theory with amusement, but their stance has grown more hostile as it continues to answer unresolved questions. This theory induces a double existential crisis. The possibility that we are not real and that there is a creator behind our universe. Simulation theory's strength lies in its capacity to address scientific queries without raising countless new ones, a feature that ensures its longevity. Many Christians struggle with this theory because it suggests we are merely mathematical constructs. However, it should be embraced as it provides a scientific framework that supports the concept of a creator, something no other scientific model does explicitly. In the following section, I will demonstrate how simulation theory addresses scientific questions where other theories fall short. Creation from nothing. Science has yet to explain how our universe emerged from nothing. However, simulation theory offers a straightforward explanation. Just as a video game world does not exist until the program runs, our universe is a simulation that only exists when powered on by a creator in a higher universe. Simulation as creation. A computer, when turned off, hosts no universe. It is only upon activation that the digital cosmos comes into being. This concept aligns with the idea that creating a simulated universe is far simpler than materializing a physical one from absolute nothingness. We are ultimately made of what we are made from, nothing, which means existence is a gift. Biblical reflections on creation. In His image. Genesis 1:26 tells us that humans were made in God's image, and Psalms 82 verse 6 calls us gods and sons of the Most High. This implies a destiny for humanity to partake in creation through simulation, perpetuating an infinite cycle of universe creation. Just as God created us in His image, our simulated creations will be made in our image. The unanswered questions of simulation theory. Despite its explanatory power, simulation theory leaves us with unanswered questions. The chain of creation. If we can simulate universes and our creations can simulate universes indefinitely, is Jehovah God the prime creator? Does He have a creator? Could there be an infinite regress of creators and created universes above us? Who is the prime creator? Who initiated this chain of creation, and what is the nature of the prime universe? These questions will remain unanswered to most people because we must maintain the value of the creator. Knowing about other higher creators would diminish the perceived value of our own creator. If you have the only apple on earth, that apple is at its highest value. If everyone is buried in apples, you will pay to get rid of them. We would have the same valuation towards our creator if we had such direct knowledge of other creators. Creators are the ultimate standard of value within their creations, and any devaluation is not permitted. Thus, we are likely to remain unaware of any other creators or universes beyond the ones we create. Jesus and his concept of creation. Jesus introduces a new concept in John 14 verse 9. He who has seen me has seen the Father. Jesus has placed great importance on this concept. If we live in a chain of universes, This is the concept needed to continue to create functional, orderly universes. It does not matter if we know who the prime creator is or not, because if we know Jesus, we know the Father. If we know the Father, then we know the prime creator. It does not matter how far down we are the chain of creation. Self-replication goes from the very bottom to the very top of the chain of universes. Self-replication. Just as mirrors reflect images infinitely, creation replicates itself, with each level of reality mirroring the one above, ensuring continuity and coherence across the chain of universes. Quantum entanglement. Science still grapples with explaining how quantum entanglement works. Quantum entanglement occurs when two particles become linked in such a way that the state of one instantaneously influences the state of the other, no matter how far apart they are. This phenomenon can be induced by splitting photons or by bombarding a pair of particles with light, leading to the entangled state described by physicists as spin up or spin down. When one particle changes its spin, the other does the opposite, instantaneously, even across vast distances of trillions of light years. How can particles transmit information faster than the speed of light, seemingly defying our understanding of space? Similarly, the concept of the quantum shift challenges our perception of matter's movement through space. Imagine an electron buzzing around an atom like a tiny spark hidden in a misty cloud of probability states. Places it could be, but we cannot pin down until we look. When the atom takes in light energy, the electron does not slide or drift. It vanishes from one spot and instantly teleports to another, skipping space entirely. Then, when the atom releases energy as green light, the electron settles back, appearing in a new spot just as suddenly. This tiny wonder shows matter can move in ways beyond our everyday rules, hinting at a deeper design. Even when scientists use experiments to interrupt this shift, like flashing light to nudge the electron back or elsewhere, it is not a journey through a physical space. Instead, it is like tweaking the rules behind the scenes, altering the electron's probability cloud without it ever moving along the path we can see. This mysterious control suggests a hidden order, not a physical trip. The simulation theory explanation. How can information and matter be teleported from one point in space to another point in space? Consider the game Team Fortress 2, otherwise known as TF2, where players can use teleportation pads. In this game, a player can move from one location to another without traversing the space in between, because within the computer's processing, all points are equally accessible. This idea can be extended to our universe. Space and distance as illusions. Just as physical distances do not apply within a video game, in our universe, space and distance are not genuine properties, but rather constructs of our perception. Under this construct, quantum entanglement and quantum shifts make sense. They are not defying space, but operating within a different framework where all points are effectively equidistant to the processor. The two-dimensional universe hypothesis. If space and distance do not exist, then our universe is not three-dimensional, but two-dimensional. The images we see are two-dimensional projections on our retinas, yet they appear three-dimensional, with our senses creating the illusion of depth. The prime universe. If three-dimensional space is an illusion, the prime universe, the one from which all others stem, does not require three dimensions. My hypothesis is that the prime universe is an infinite two-dimensional plane. This plane could generate the illusion of three-dimensional space throughout our sensory interpretation. In conclusion, the concept of quantum entanglement and quantum shifts, when viewed through the lens of simulation theory, demonstrates that our universe might not be as we perceive it. If our reality is a simulation, the laws of physics, including the apparent paradoxes of quantum mechanics, are simply the rules of the simulation. A two-dimensional prime universe could be the canvas on which all other realities are painted, with our three-dimensional experience being a masterful illusion crafted by our creator. Now we will cover the double slit experiment. The double slit experiment is a pivotal experiment in understanding whether photons, smallest units of light, and electrons exhibit wave-like behavior or particle-like behavior. Particles and waves. Particles are tangible entities, like rocks and trees, while waves are dynamic disturbances in equilibrium, like ripples on the water. Our experimental setup. A single slit with baseballs and light. Baseballs thrown through a single slit hit the detector and make a vertical line of impacts. Line through a single slit creates a similar vertical pattern, as seen in the diagrams. In the top diagram, you can see a particle making a bunch of little dots of impacts on the detector, and as you see, the source of light on the other side creates a vertical line. Now, double slit with baseballs and light. Baseballs passing through two slits creates two vertical lines of impact as it randomly passes through one of the slits. Light, however, produces an interference pattern, like two sets of ripples overlapping each other on the water, suggesting it behaves like waves, passing through both slits simultaneously and interfering with each other, creating many impact points, as seen in the diagrams below. When sending one individual photon at a time randomly through one of the two slits, expecting no interference pattern, the pattern still shows wave-like interference. This is as if the photon passed through both slits at the same time, creating two sets of waves, interfere with itself, and hit the detector in every place where it could possibly exist. Then they changed the experiment with observing them with detectors. Placing a detector to observe which slit the photon chooses results in the photon behaving like a particle, producing two lines instead of an interference pattern. Even if the detector is placed after the choice of slit, the result is the same, suggesting the photon retroactively decides its path. The simulation theory interpretation. Rendering in video games like Skyrim. So what is going on with the double slit experiment? What is going on is the same thing that we experience in computer games like Skyrim. In this example, my character is observing the ground next to a rocky hill on the left. There is a palisade walled bandit camp there, even though we cannot see it in the left picture. We cannot see it because the computer engine creating the world does not detect that we are close enough to the bandit camp for us to observe it and deem it necessary to physically render it into existence for us to observe. Right now, the bandit camp is just a bunch of numbers running within the background of the program and does not physically exist. Once we get close enough to observe where the bandit camp should be, the program decides we are close enough to observe the bandit camp and physically renders it into existence, as seen in the picture on the bottom right. The explanation is this is exactly what happens with the photon in the double slit experiment. When the photon is not able to be observed, it is made up of probability waves of everywhere the photon possibly could be. When unobserved, the photon hits the detector everywhere it could possibly exist at the same time. As soon as the photon can be observed, our simulated universe physically renders it into existence, like the bandit camp, and the photon acts like a particle. Simply the possibility of something existing in a physical space causes our universe to create evidence that it is in that space. The applications to quantum mechanics. When not observed, photons and electrons exist in a state of probability waves, like how Skyrim does not render details until it is necessary. Observation forces our universe to render these entities into particle states, much like a game engine renders objects when you are close enough to observe them. What strengthens this is that the double slit experiment is scalable. This experiment has been performed with atoms, large molecules called buckyballs, and a tiny paddle, which demonstrates that physical matter does not exist until it is observed. Philosophical implications of existence and observation. If you are sleeping alone without any observation in our simulated reality, you do not exist in a physical sense until someone observes you. The necessity of existence. We can now answer the age-old question: if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? No, it does not make a sound because the simulation has no need to create a sound. On top of that, if no one sees the tree falling, it was never there to fall in the first place. The idea of someone is watching me. People get intuitions that they are being watched, and many times it turns out to be true. This may be because you are sensing that the universe is rendering an image of yourself to another individual. It may be more than just a feeling, and you are possibly sensing a change in the code. This can explain why God created us with the ability to sleep. When we sleep, we reduce computational server load, as nothing is being rendered into existence for us. Conclusion. The behavior of photons and electrons in a double-slit experiment is explained by how a simulation renders reality only when it is necessary based on observation. This proves that our reality has the attributes of being a simulation where the act of observation dictates whether things act as waves or particles, echoing the behavior of a sophisticated rendering engine in a video game. Well, that is it for today. Next episode, we will be covering time dilation, the quantum eraser experiment, computer-coded universe, time travel in a simulated universe. We'll go over theories on how God sustains our universe, and how simulation theory answers questions in the Bible, and we will answer the question to the meaning of life. Until next time, I'll see you then.